I can think of few things on earth more purely American than a lever-action rifle chambered for the 45-70 government cartridge. In 1881, Marlin trumped Winchester by introducing the first lever-action rifle chambered for the 45-70 government round. In 1895, Marlin again trumped Winchester by introducing the first solid-top, side-ejecting lever-action. These rifles were in continuous production from 1895 until 1917. At the beginning of the last century, the black powder 45-70 was still one of the most powerful American-made cartridges of its time. Both lever-action and single-shot rifles chambered for this round remained popular and were still routinely used to hunt heavy game. After World War I, Marlin turned their attention toward producing rifles for the increasingly popular smokeless powder cartridges like the .35 Remington and the .30-30 Winchester. The original black powder version of the .30-30 cartridge was popular even before it transitioned into a smokeless powder round. Smokeless powder improved the .30-30 ballistics and really put the .30-30 in high demand. Even today, you'll see more lever-action rifles chambered in .30-30 than for any other round. It wouldn't be until 1972 that the 45-70 cartridge returned to Marlin's lineup in the form of a redesigned Marlin 1895, a big-bore version of their Model 336. Like the Model 336, the new Model 1895 was also drilled and tapped for a scope mount. The 1895s produced after 1972 are a heavy-duty version of the Model 336. These modern 1895s are built considerably stronger than the original 1895, making them capable of handling much higher chamber pressures. Today's factory-available 45-70 government ammunition is loaded with modern smokeless gunpowder, but the working pressures are purposely kept to around the same levels as the traditional loading of 70 grains of black powder. There's just too many old trapdoor Springfields and other rifles still around that were designed to shoot the 45-70 black powder rounds. Most all of the replicas and reproductions you see on the market today also fall into this category. Any increase in chamber pressures could prove outright hazardous for these older rifles, and possibly the shooter. So it is understandable why the ammo industry isn't willing to risk lawsuits by producing hotter ammunition. Should you happen to own one of these modern Marlin 1895s, reloading allows you to raise the bar quite a bit. There's plenty of reloading data available that will allow this rifle to step right into becoming a potent, dangerous game rifle. Out of curiosity, I have used some of this reloading data and fired some of those hotter rounds out of this rifle. I found a number of these loadings to be on the verge of being overpowered for hunting anything on the North American continent. In a rifle this lightweight, the recoil some of those loads generated was substantial. Actually, more recoil than most shooters would care to subject themselves to. Personally, I prefer rounds loaded to somewhere in between. These loads still generate a fair amount of recoil, but are more than suitable for taking moose, bison, or even facing down a big brown, and do it with a large dose of authority. This rifle is most certainly not your great-grandpappy's old Winchester or trapdoor Springfield. Properly loaded, this new Model 1895 can easily take on anything that roams the North American continent, and a good portion of Africa. The 45-70 government is a pretty substantial round. Some of you might not be familiar with this old cartridge, so let's give it a little scale. The 45-70 practically dwarfs this 223 round. What you're seeing is the preferred U.S. military round of the late 1800s versus today's preferred U.S. military round. I suppose I've always had a soft spot for classic rifles chambered for classic calibers. It is rare when one of these modern classics can outperform one of the originals. Marlin's new Model 1895 is a definite exception. Loaded with today's factory ammunition, or even the traditional black powder rounds, it still makes a great deep woods gun. Cast lead bullets work just fine in it, just the way they have for the last 150 years. Like I mentioned before, load this rifle to higher velocities using jacketed bullets, and you'll have a rifle that would be right at home hunting large kudu on the African savanna. I know, not everybody's dream, but I wouldn't mind adding that one to my bucket list. While not as popular as they once were, a fast-handling lever-action rifle still has a place in the hunting rifle domain, particularly in big bear country. For a cartridge that's over 150 years old, the 4570 can still hang in there with some of today's modern big bores. Like I said in the opening of this review, it just doesn't get any more purely American than this. Until next time, practice often, shoot straight, and thanks for stopping by.